We're joined now by Abbas Gallyamov. He's a political consultant from Russia, former speechwriter for Russian President Vladimir Putin. We really appreciate you being with us. As you know, when it comes to Putin, I mean, all that we get, all that we see are his formal speeches, very choreographed appearances in public, leaving a lot of room for speculation about the man in charge of Russia. Does anything real, come through these speeches, or is it all a staged show or a deception? What do you see on stage?
Well, you're absolutely right. He pays much more attention to deceptions and lies than an average politician. Any politician can lie if he considers it that it might be handy for him, useful for him. But none is paying so much attention, investing so much effort into this deception. Mentally, Putin has not become a politician. He is still a KGB spy. And, for KGB, for a spy, they're creating special operations to deceive people. Because for them, unlike for politicians, if anyone guesses, any outsider guesses what they intend, what their intentions are, what they really think, well, this is a failure for them. So Putin is really investing a lot of efforts into this, into kind of things, but he cannot conceal the objective reality. If you ask me about what the real situation is, the most important thing now is, that he is at a loss. He lost. Strategically, he doesn't know where to move. That's why he's being active, but he doesn't know how to use his activity. So he's changing things, changing people. Like he's promoting one general, then demoting him, then promoting him again, and this shifting and changing these balances and counterbalances all the time. So he's doing things which are not necessary now. Not necessary now. He's in a kind of a impasse. He feels that he's coming into an impasse, and he cannot stop acting, but he doesn't know what to do actually.
What do we know? I mean, we're getting reports. You're talking about how he's doing. We got a lot of reports about his deteriorating mental state, or even his health. And that he's increasingly isolated, only getting little bits of information. I mean, what do you think? I mean, kind of information flow is coming to him. Is he getting accurate info, or are those around him too afraid to even tell him the truth? I mean, what do we know?
Well, no, they're afraid to tell him the truth, of course. That's why they're giving to him the truth, but in such awful interpretation, with such awful interpretations, such crazy interpretations, that the reality becomes distorted.
Right.
But actually, no one would dare. You should understand, they're really afraid of him. So no one would dare to tell outright lies to him. So it's not quite that they're lying to him and he doesn't get the real information. He gets the information, but the mental structures in his head are being constantly reinforced by his surrounding. So the interpretation, the way he views at objective facts, it's kind of distorted.
Look, in having written his speeches, I mean, his rhetoric, it's changed this year. I mean, talking now about an existential conflict against, against the Nazis, a use of language reminiscent of the Russian Empire. Is this from the speechwriter playbook somewhere, or what do you think about this dramatic shift in the language that we're hearing from Putin?
Well, I wouldn't say that he changed drastically. He was moving in this direction already. He just made it worse, made it sound worse. But the direction of the conflict with the Western countries, conflict with the idea of democracy, this existential threat which West brings to Russia. Well, these things were present in his speeches and his activities long ago. He needs to speed up the process to reinforce all these things, to be reinforcing them constantly, because he, he's losing domestically. His popularity is declining since at least 2018, so for 5 years already. And he's losing legitimacy exactly because Russian public, they got tired of foreign policy with which they were fed up with for a long time. And they started paying attention to the domestic issues. And there, what we have corruption, we have declining economics, decreasing living standards, and all these kind of negative things. So he started losing popularity, and he drastically needs to bring the attention back to foreign policy, back to Ukraine, to the USA, to NATO, and things like this. That's why he needs to escalate. That's the point.
Distraction.
This is the only way he can save his legitimacy.
What do you say? I mean, with what you know of internal Kremlin dealings, what are the chances of some kind of internal Kremlin overthrow of Putin, or a chance of a military or political elite, sort of rebelling in this moment? Is he protected from that? What kind of chances do you give that?
Well, on the one hand, we have Russian elites which are completely dissatisfied with him. Like, everything was okay from their point of view, but for some reason he started the war. No one believes into the pretext which he offered. I mean, the elites. So he started the war, and now he created a really awful situation. Russia is being isolated. It's driving towards revolution. So it's something absolutely, it cannot be justified. That's why they really, when you're communicating to them, you hear that a lot of those people who were previously loyal to him, they started hating him now. But they're all afraid of him, you should understand. So they're in a kind of, lot. On the one hand, they want to do something to stop this, but on the other hand, they're afraid to act. So they're looking at each other, hoping that somebody would act. And they really don't see the strategic exit. The Western countries didn't offer to them, the Western world, which is their natural ally. It didn't offer to them any exit strategy. So they see that we're being sanctioned there, and we're afraid of Putin's KGB here. So they are lost. So I think this year they will try to convince him to step down and find a successor who would start correcting the situation.
Wow.
This is the most they can afford, I think. So they wouldn't act against him. They'll try to convince him to change the situation. He cannot change it. He cannot stop the war already. So they would try to convince him to step down and find a successor, like he did in 2008 with Medvedev.
That's a fascinating insight to the situation in the Kremlin. So opaque, so hard for us to have any understanding of what's taking place in there. So Abbas Gallyamov, thanks for being with us here.